we have come to word on the street, excuse me. And Rick is looking at, speaking of predictions and prospects, the prospect of Elizabeth Warren as a Treasury Secretary if Joe Biden wins the presidency. I think would she be a controversial choice? It seems like she probably would be, right?
Yep, should be very controversial because of all the possible people who could fill that post, which is that's an important one. That's a top tier cabinet post, obviously. She probably would be most aggressive about regulating banks, or at least trying to. And Wall Street would probably dislike her the most. I mean, she was the one who just pilloried banks after the 2008 financial crisis. She wrote the legislation that set up the new Consumer Financial Protection Board, and she wishes it would go a lot further than it did. So, predicting the candidate's cabinet before the election is a classic Washington parlor game. And there are a lot of people who would be qualified to be the Treasury Secretary. The question for Biden is how he's going to handle this battle between progressives on the left, who want somebody who would really confront the banking industry, and somebody who would be a more conventional choice. That could be Lael Brainerd of the Fed, Roger Ferguson, who was former vice chairman of the Fed, or a bunch of other people who are on the list. But this is going to be typical of the pressure Biden's going to face when he has to figure out, are his appointees going to represent the progressive wing of the Democratic Party or the more institutional wing of the Democratic Party?
And as Rick laid out right there, it's important to note that the parlor game involves a number of other moving pieces, such that if it is indeed the case that Elizabeth Warren were to become a Treasury Secretary under a prospective Biden administration, that could move Lael Brainerd, the current Fed governor, to a possible eligibility to become the new Fed chair under a Biden administration if he chooses to replace Jay Powell at the end of his term in February of 2022. Now, of course, Biden could reappoint him based on his performance during this COVID crisis. But if he did not want to, Lael Brainerd, as I've kind of been told in certain source conversations, would be interested in becoming a Fed chair, that she has in the past tried to make a case for herself to become Fed chair. Now, again, that is contingent on her not being picked for a Treasury Secretary position, but it seems like maybe that's going to be the first moving piece, because there have been other reports that the likes of, in addition, Roger Ferguson, formerly of the Fed as well, there could be the likes of Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo, who could be part of that possible pool prospective people as well. So a lot of moving parts there, but it could have ripple effects for other important things, like who's going to head the central bank in 2022 as well.
Just one last thing to mention. One factor working against Elizabeth Warren for any cabinet job is that if she left the Senate, she would be replaced by an appointment made by the Republican governor of Massachusetts, that's Charlie Baker. And it's probably unlikely Democrats are going to have such a huge advantage in the Senate under the best scenario that they can afford to lose one seat. So that is one reason Elizabeth Warren might stay in the Senate, and those key jobs might go to somebody else.